Hello BookTube, this is Aaron from Aaron Read a Book or Aaron Read a Book. I just want to talk a little bit about my home county, which is Essex, and more specifically, books that mention my hometown of Colchester. Um, uh, Colchester was once the Roman capital of England, so I'm sure there's loads of Roman books about Colchester or with some Colchester setting, but I've never come across any. So I also want to get book recommendations if anyone knows any of books about Colchester. But I just thought I'd go through three books that I have read that have Colchester in them, or more specifically, are quite Essex focused. Um, and I'd be interested to know um, what people's favourite books are about their hometowns as well. Um, the first one I want to talk about is a very little one with a beautiful cover, and that is Margaret the First by Danielle Dutton. Um, this book is about sort of one of Colchester's most famous inhabitants now, who is Mary Cavendish. Um, she was a 17th century duchess and a writer, and she's sort of known now as one of the earliest ever women writers of science fiction. She wrote some very strange stuff that I've never read, but I should really. This is a really beautiful little book. It's very small, and the the chapters are very short. It's very poetic and lyrical, and uh, yeah, this character was basically she was basically forgotten until Virginia Woolf wrote about her in The Uncommon Reader, and then was sort of revived. Um, but yeah, this is a beautiful little book. I remember a book olive raved about it, and that's what encouraged me to get it. I didn't even know she was from Colchester, but she was part of the Lucas family. Um, Sir Charles Lucas, he was one of the guys in the siege of Colchester in the Civil War, who was beheaded when they were caught, and they lived in a place called St John's Abbey Gate. It's now a gate, but it used to be the entrance to their house, and I used to live right next to it. So I was reading this book, and it's like, oh, she was basically my next door neighbour from 400 years ago or 300 years ago. But yeah, this is a pretty little thing, and it doesn't take very long to read. Um, the second one is another sort of famous incident involving Essex, and that was uh, the Essex witch trials, or the Manningtree witch trials. Um, and this was a debut by A.K. Blakemore, who's a poet. But this came out, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. And this is a dramatisation of um, the Essex witch trials, and it follows this young girl and her mother, who's sort of one of the most suspected people, and it basically talks about how during the English Civil War, um, because a lot of all the men were fighting, women became more independent, and that bred fear. So this is sort of a very feminist perspective of the witch trials. I guess all perspectives of any witch trials is going to be sort of quite feminist because they were sort of a disgrace. But yeah, so this again is very poetic and lyrical, and very reminds me of Hilary Mantel. So if you like Hilary Mantel, I highly recommend this. So yeah, it follows um, this young girl, and obviously then Matthew Hopkins comes into the picture, who's the Witchfinder General. That's in there actually. Yeah, so this is highly recommended as well. And Manningtree is a village on the outskirts, or quite near Colchester, and Colchester also features in this because I think the trials were in Colchester, or they were arrested in Colchester or something. But yeah, I highly recommend this one as well, and I'll be very interested to see what A.K. Blakemore does next. Again, quite short and poetical and lyrical. I'm surprised Essex is sort of a influence all these poetical books. This is probably the most famous Essex book of the last few years, apart from maybe Essex Dogs by Dan Jones, which I haven't read yet. But this was a bit of a hit. The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. So this is again very beautiful writing in this as well. It's a very character driven novel. If you like character driven novels, this is set in Victorian times, and it's about a woman leaving London after her abusive husband dies, and she moves to Essex and becomes fascinated by this sort of mythical sea creature, the Essex Serpent, that I had never heard of before this book, but it is a mythical thing. And this features Colchester as well. She's on holiday in Colchester. Why you go on holiday to Colchester, I don't know, being from there, but very historical place. But yeah, this is very character driven, not very much plot at all, really. It's if you don't mind that, this is, and you like things that delve into characters, especially when they're very kind and lovely characters, like in the Essex Serpent. Um, and sort of quite I found it quite cozy, um, but yeah, again, quite, but also there is some gothic elements to it as well. Obviously it's about a monster, but yeah, this is another really good one. So yeah, that's just three little Essex books that I recommend. Let me know if you know any others, or what books you like from your that mention your hometown. Another favourite mention of Colchester for me is, it is very brief, is in 1984 by George Orwell, where he mentions that it's the first place that is has a nuclear bomb dropped on it in the war. So um, yeah, that's quite funny. I'd also, if there's one other booktube from Colchester, Sarah from Your True Shelf, who I'll be interested to know if she's recommends any. So yeah, have a good day, booktube.